Hey there, you're watching the Data Dispatch. Thank you for tuning in. Today you are watching the second in a video series covering how to backpack the Lost Coast. Today we're going to talk about rules and regulations and other trail-specific issues. So if you don't know what the Lost Coast is, you're going to want to check out the first video in this series, which I hopefully have floating somewhere around here, but if not, I'll also have it in the description below. But it's a roughly 25-mile trail that hugs the coast of Northern California. But more importantly, you're going to want to check out that video because I cover transportation issues both in getting to and around the Lost Coast Trail. But on to today's topic. As for the outright rules and regulations, number one, you need a permit. You will see some articles and trip reports online saying you don't, and those weren't necessarily wrong at the time they were written. They're just out of date. This is a new rule that started just last year. Permits are cheap. I think ours was $10, and they're actually pretty easy to sign up for. It's just a website that you go to, and I'll put the link in the description below. But it's a pretty quick process to sign up. The only problem is they only let 60 people on at a time. And so by the time we signed up in early March, basically every full weekend for the summer was gone. So if you want to go, sign up early, especially if you want to go on a weekend. Number two, bear cans are required. And not only that, there is an approved list, which I will also put in the description below. And if you're anything like me, I know you're wondering, so spoiler alert, the URSAC is not approved. It is hard-sided bear cans only, so that is a bummer. That will cost me at least a pound in weight. Number three, dogs are allowed. I've seen various reports on whether this is a good idea or not. Just logically to me, the hard rocks and varying amount of seemingly rough terrain makes it seem like not a great idea, but then again, I have a 14-year-old lab who basically just sits in the AC on the couch, so maybe my opinion is colored. I've definitely seen YouTube videos of people with dogs, so it can be done. I'll let you make up your own mind, but regardless, they are allowed. Number four, you can camp anywhere. There are no designated sites, and it looks like there are plenty of options. Now, the Bureau of Land Management and Leave No Trace principles both recommend that you camp on top of other established sites, but I believe there's only two of us, and I believe us to be fairly low impact campers. And established sites tend to attract both mini and real size bears. So we will probably try to seek out some lesser used area. Unless we want to start a fire or do some other high impact activity, we will definitely camp on top of another established site. Number five, fires are allowed, at least until about, they say, roughly mid-June. It sounds like they just basically make a call on when it's gotten too dry to have fires and then just outlaw them for the rest of the summer. So definitely check with the ranger station before you go. Number six, fishing in the creeks is not allowed, but fishing in the ocean, if you have a fishing permit, is allowed. I think I'm actually just going to skip the fishing this time as much as I like it. Fishing in the ocean sounds like fairly low probability for the weight. Number seven, drones are not allowed. Drones are not allowed in wilderness areas. Now, I think it's somewhat BS. They use a rule written around no motorized vehicles and call a drone a motorized vehicle. That is obviously not the spirit with which the law was written, but rules are rules and I will follow them. However, it does look like both trailheads are out of the wilderness area and there is some private property sort of along the trail, so I'm still trying to figure that out. And number seven, the last formal rule and regulation is the bathroom situation, and it's certainly the most interesting one to me. Now, if you're on the trail away from the beach or near a creek or whatever, it's the standard deal, 100 yards away, dig your hole, do your business, and you're done. However, if you were in the intertidal region, you are to go out on the beach below the high tide level. So find where the water was at its highest and then go down below that, dig your hole, and go there, out on the beach. And also a new rule on a hike for me is no matter where you go, you have to pack out your toilet paper. So I'm still working through the logistics of that whole situation. Okay, so out of the outright rules and regulations and onto the Lost Coast trail-specific situations that you're going to want to take into account while you're planning. Number one, it looks like there are lots of wildlife on this trail. Ticks seem like they're a particular issue. I'm going to permit treat all of my clothes, and that might prevent me from wearing shorts. It looks like there are lots of deer. And of course, bears are around, so take precautions there. And simply FYI, and I'm not a bearaphobe or anything, but I've read 3 separate trip reports that say there are aggressive bears in the Big Flat area. Now, this may be the textbook situation of one incident sort of spreading like wildfire, but I have read it enough that we're probably going to avoid that area, but you're probably fine if you take normal precautions. And lastly, rattlesnakes. Now, I grew up in West Texas, so I'm somewhat familiar with rattlers. It just seems super weird to me that rattlers are a problem on this trail generally, even in the grasslands, but especially on the beach. Rattlesnakes on the beach. I had no idea. Number 2, it looks like there is lots of water on this trail. Every single one of those streams that run perpendicular to the ocean flow with water supposedly even long into the summer. So I'm probably going to carry no more than a liter and probably less depending on the temperature, but you should definitely call the ranger station before you go to make sure there's not some weird dry season kind of thing, and I don't want you to run out of water because I said there's plenty. And lastly, and I think most importantly of all, something near like 8 miles of this trail and 3 separate points are completely impassable at high tide. And that is to say that literally 2 times a day the water rises high enough that there is no trail. And this is an important enough situation, and I kind of have enough to say on it that I'm going to make this the next video, tide planning on the Lost Coast Trail. So stay tuned there. But all you need to know in this video is you have to plan for the tides. So that's it. I think that's all the rules and regulations and trail-specific situations you need to know when planning for the Lost Coast, or at least certainly the most important ones. If you thought this was helpful, please hit that thumbs up button. Definitely hit subscribe if you don't want to miss any of my upcoming videos. We're going to talk tides on the Lost Coast next, and then on to some really cool gear stuff. But until next time, go have some fun outside. See you soon.